Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we are getting into something, well, something really critical. I guess you could call it a piece of our internal architecture. We're exploring inner child healing, but specifically through the lens of one mechanism that I think is profoundly misunderstood.
Forgiveness.
Forgiveness, exactly. And our mission today is, I think, pretty straightforward, but also incredibly powerful. We're going to break down how engaging with your past and actively letting go of that emotional weight is really the key.
It's the key to unlocking self-love and to finding some real, lasting inner peace.
Right. We're not looking for just feel-good ideas here. We want the actual roadmap, the step-by-step.
And we have to start with the core idea, the philosophy, right away. Because if you don't get this part, none of the steps will really land. The sources we looked at are very sharp on this point. Forgiveness in this context is not about the other person.
It's not a transaction.
Not at all. It's defined very clearly as a gift to ourselves. The whole idea here is that the burdens we're carrying, the resentment, the anger, they're actually self-imposed. And because of that, only we can choose to set them down.
Okay, let's unpack that. Because if forgiveness is a gift to ourselves, then refusing to forgive is what? A form of self-imprisonment.
That's a perfect way to put it. The sources detail some pretty intense negative consequences.
What's the actual cost psychologically of holding on to all that resentment?
Well, the primary cost is emotional stagnation. It literally keeps you stuck. When you refuse to forgive, all your energy, all your attention stays anchored to that past event. You're tethered to the very thing you're trying to move on from.
And we think we're punishing the other person.
We do. We think holding on to anger somehow hurts them. But the sources are so clear on this. The only person you're actually hurting is yourself. You're poisoning your own system.
It's that old saying, right? Drinking poison and waiting for the other person to die.
Precisely. And this state, this emotional blockage, it actively stops what the literature calls the flow of love and positivity.
Okay, what does that mean in practical terms? The flow of love.
Think of your inner world like an ecosystem, a river. If that river is dammed up by a huge wall of resentment and anger, then the fresh water, which is, joy, acceptance, peace, it just can't get through. It can't flow into your present life.
So if we were going to name the materials building that dam, what are they? What are the main burdens we have to release to get things flowing again?
The two that come up again and again are resentment and chronic anger. Those are the big anchors. But there's something else too. Holding on to those emotions often means you're holding on to a story, a narrative of being a victim.
And that narrative can be its own kind of prison.
It can be incredibly binding, because to let go of the anger means you also have to let go of an identity that might be defined by that past injury.
Which is why the process has to start internally.
It has to. You have to heal the self first before you can even think about dealing with the external part.
That's a really crucial point. So if resentment is the engine keeping us stuck, we need a way to shut it down. We need a structure. The sources move from this philosophical why to the practical how pretty quickly. And it starts with self-integration, right? Work aimed directly at yourself.
Absolutely. And it begins with the body. You have to ground the body first.
Oh, why is that?
You just can't do this kind of deep psychological work if your nervous system is, fired up and on high alert.
Right. So for you listening at home, the guide is very deliberate about the physical setup. You have to find a quiet, comfortable space. You can be sitting, you can be lying down, and then you close your eyes. And the very first step is purely physiological. It's just about breathing.
Deep, intentional breaths. And as you exhale, you consciously let go of the tension you might be holding.
In your shoulders, your jaw.
Exactly. It's like you're sending a signal to your whole system that says, you are safe now.
And that sense of safety is the foundation for what comes next.
It's the prerequisite. Once you're physically grounded, then the visualization can begin. And the first major phase is intensely personal. It's all about you.
This is where the mirror comes in.
Yes, the symbol of a mirror. This is really the heart of the inner child work.
It's not just about looking at who I am today, though, is it?
No, not at all. You're asked to look deeper, to allow the mirror to reflect different versions of yourself from different times in your life.
The full timeline.
The full timeline. You're encouraged to see the small child, maybe a scared or confused child, then the awkward teenager, the young adult who made mistakes. All of them are there.
This is the moment you actually meet your inner child, or I guess inner children.
That's right. And for anyone who isn't familiar with that term, the inner child is basically the part of your psyche that holds on to your past experiences.
The emotional archive.
A perfect way to put it. It carries the weight of old hurts, unmet needs, maybe some shame or fear. And if those feelings aren't validated, they end up driving your reactions in the present.
So you bring them to the mirror to finally give them that validation.
Before they can be integrated, yes, they need to be seen.
That makes so much sense.
Hmm.
So the action you're supposed to take toward these past selves in the mirror is what? Just kindness?
Kindness, compassion, and love for each one.
But what if you really don't like a past version of yourself?
Mhm.
You know, maybe you regret things or you're ashamed of the person you were. How do the sources say to get past that self-loathing?
That's where this becomes a deep practice, not just a simple visualization. You're not being asked to condone mistakes. You are being asked to recognize the context.
Yeah.
You look at that younger self and you try to understand that they were doing the absolute best they could with what they had, with the knowledge, the resources, the emotional capacity they had at that time.
So the love isn't for the bad decision. It's for the person who was struggling.
Exactly. It's an act of validation for every version of you that went through something hard and crucially survived it.
Okay, I see. It's about finding that thread of self-worth that was always there, even when things went wrong.
It was always there. And once you can genuinely feel that compassion, you move to the final step of this part of the visualization. You imagine physically bringing all of those past versions together. You gather them up and you integrate them into your present self.
So you're not exiling them anymore.
You're bringing them home. You're acknowledging that the child, the teenager, they are all necessary parts of who you are today. They're the building blocks.
That sounds incredibly difficult. I mean, the instructions sound simple, bring them all together. But for someone with a really complicated past, what would that integration actually feel like?
It can feel like an expansion. Or maybe like your personal story suddenly clicks into place. It becomes coherent.
Instead of feeling fractured.
Right. Instead of a series of disconnected people you used to be, you realize that the struggles of your younger selves actually gave you the resilience and the wisdom you have now. You become psychologically whole.
And that wholeness is the foundation you need for the next step.
You need it. You can't successfully release the hurts caused by others if your own foundation of self-love is still broken.
That's a perfect transition.
Yeah.
You reconcile the internal past before you can really deal with the external past.
Yeah.
So once we've done this intensive work in the mirror, how do we shift to releasing external burdens, to forgiving others?
We shift the entire landscape. We move into the second major visualization, which is highly metaphorical. After you've grounded this newly unified self, you're asked to imagine a very specific place. A valley.
And the sources give this valley a very specific name, don't they?
They do. It's explicitly defined as a symbol for the subconscious mind.
Okay, that's interesting. Why a valley?
Well, think about what we do with unprocessed emotions. We don't deal with them logically. We push them down. We bury them. A valley, low, deep, vast. It's the perfect symbol for that repository of buried emotional material. And by consciously choosing to enter this visualized valley, you're giving yourself agency over what's buried there.
I like that. So if the mirror was about acknowledging who we are, the valley is about clearing out what we carry.
That's it, exactly. It's a designated zone for, you could say, emotional detoxification. It's the place where you can finally look at those negative emotions tied to other people and events and consciously forgive them.
The valley holds everything you're choosing to let go of, so it can dissipate safely.
Yes, it's the container.
So in this visualization, what does the actual act of forgiveness look like? Am I summoning the people who hurt me into this valley?
You might bring up the memory of them or the event, but the real focus is on the emotion that you are holding inside you. You imagine taking that resentment or the anger, the feeling of betrayal, and you literally place it into the valley.
As what? An object.
Often, yes. It's visualized as something heavy. A sack of stones, maybe a thick chain, or even just a dark, heavy cloud.
And according to the sources, what's the result of that? What does it feel like to put that down? It's not just a mental trick, is it?
No, it's meant to be a full-body experience, a somatic experience. It's universally described as a feeling of weight being shed. As you place that burden down in the valley, you're instructed to physically imagine that weight lifting off your shoulders or your chest.
Wow.
And that physical feeling of release is what makes it real. It's what allows you to truly internalize the result, which is this immediate feeling of peace, of freedom that comes after you let go.
So it's physically embodying the removal of that dam we talked about at the start.
It is. The moment you choose to forgive in this way, you are severing the energetic cord that ties you to that past event. You stop letting someone else's actions dictate your own internal state today. The lightness you feel is the proof.
Okay, but this brings up a really important practical question.
Yeah.
If this is all about internal release, is there a risk of becoming so self-focused that you ignore, real-world boundaries?
That's a critical distinction to make. Forgiveness in this context is 100% an internal act.
It's about your peace.
Your peace, separated from their behavior. The sources are very clear. Forgiving someone does not mean you condone what they did. It doesn't mean you have to trust them again or even let them back into your life.
So it's not about reconciliation.
Not necessarily. It's a therapeutic act you perform for yourself, by yourself. The safeguard is that this process actually helps you create better boundaries because your emotional space is clearer. It doesn't dissolve them.
Excellent. That's so important for people to hear. So let's distill this. We've got the self-reconciliation in the mirror and the external release in the valley. For you listening, what's the final core understanding we should take away from all this?
The biggest takeaway is that this is all a process. It's not a single event. It's not a switch you flip one day and you're done.
It's a practice.
It's a dedicated practice. It involves self-compassion, grounding your body, using visualization, and making a deliberate, conscious choice to release.
And when you follow that process, the sources say there's a cascade of benefits that comes from it.
There is. First, you get the release of those negative emotions we talked about, the resentment, the anger. That stagnation is gone. Second, that release unlocks self-love because you finally validated and integrated your entire history. You can't really love your present self if you're at war with your past.
And third,
The third is the direct result of the first two, the genuine healing of that inner child. And that is what allows you to finally move forward with so much more peace and clarity.
it brings us right back to where we started. That idea that forgiveness isn't for them. It's a gift we give ourselves. We're basically giving ourselves permission to own our present moment without being chained to the past.
And that idea of weight, of chains, is the perfect metaphor. When we carry anger, we are physically and emotionally dragging the past along with us. The ultimate point of all this is that by releasing that weight through these practices, you are giving yourself the practical ability to live freely. You stop letting past hurts write the story of your future.
Living freely. That's a powerful way to end it. And it brings us to the final thought we want to leave you with today, and it builds right on that core metaphor from the sources. We said at the beginning that refusing to forgive keeps us stuck and blocks the flow of love and positivity. So if that's the negative side stagnation, being burdened, what might the practical, real-world experience of an unrestricted flow actually feel like? How could you identify that state of joyful, unrestricted living, not just as a concept, but in your daily choices, your interactions? That's something to think about as you integrate this deep dive. Thank you for joining us.
Until next time.